It started with a fire truck swerving straight onto my lawn, sirens screaming, tires tearing into the turf like a wild bull, all because of a stupid no parking sign someone had hammered 2 feet into the street. And right as the crew hooked up their hose to my emergency water tank, there she was, Lydia Cobb. Robe, sunglasses, mimosa in hand, shouting across the street, "That tank is a violation!" I stood there watching, half expecting the world to glitch. A literal fire was threatening our neighborhood, and this woman was worried about aesthetics. Let me back up. My name's Nate Lawson. I live in Timber Ridge, a place where the grass is always cut, the shutters match the HOA's mood, and the real danger isn't fire, it's control. Years back, after a nasty wildfire crippled our water pressure and nearly burned down half the block, I partnered quietly with the county to install a backup water reservoir on my property. It was part of a decentralized emergency system. Fire trucks could tap in if the main lines failed. Simple, life-saving, invisible. Or at least that was the plan. Then Lydia saw it. She walked up one morning while I was doing routine checks, glaring like I'd installed a missile silo next to her tulips. Didn't say good morning, just launched into it. What is that supposed to be? She pointed like the tank had insulted her HOA badge. I explained, calmly, that it was an emergency water supply. Pressure stabilized, UV resistant, approved under quiet agreement with the fire department. Didn't matter. She blinked like I'd spoken another language. "It's too shiny," she snapped. "It's an eyesore." Next morning, I had 3 citations stuffed under my door. One for exceeding height limits, one for being reflective, and, this one still makes me laugh, non-conforming agricultural equipment. I wasn't growing corn. I was keeping the place from turning into ash. But Lydia didn't care. This wasn't about facts. It was about control, power, and visibility. That tank committed the worst sin of all in her world. It could be seen. Now, what she didn't know was that the tank wasn't really mine. It was on my land, sure, but functionally, it was part of the county's emergency response system. After the fire 5 years back, Station 27 commissioned me to design a prototype backup. That tank was the first. Signed, sealed, operational. And now, under siege. She didn't waste time. Lydia called a special HOA meeting, which in her world meant dragging out some lawn chairs and waving a bottle of Chardonnay. She stood on a cooler, passing around a petition claiming the tank would ruin home values. 5 neighbors showed up. 3 came for the free wine. But then it got weird. People started vandalizing the tank. Spray paint, signs taped on it saying, "This thing devalues your home." One teenager even graffitied "drained" across the side. I washed it off, quietly. But inside, I was livid, not because of the paint, but because none of them understood what they were messing with. They thought this was about appearances. They had no clue the tank could mean life or death if the system failed again. And then it did, mid-July. Heat wave. Pressure dropped in the municipal lines, and within minutes, Station 27 hit emergency protocol. My tank. The fire truck came screaming down the block, barreled right through the HOA gate, swung onto my lawn, and plugged straight into the system. As they pumped thousands of gallons out to contain the blaze near the ridge, who do you think showed up? Lydia. Bathrobe, still holding a mimosa like it was a shield. She marched straight toward the firefighters, yelling, "This is private property! That tank is illegal!" One of the crew shouted back, "Ma'am, we're saving your house." She didn't blink, just kept ranting about bylaws and unauthorized structures. She even called it a domestic water bomb. I wish I were making that up. Next day, the fallout started. Lydia didn't apologize. She escalated. She stuffed HOA newsletters into every mailbox claiming the tank caused the fire, called it unauthorized military-grade hardware, and warned of chemicals. It would have been funny if people weren't buying into it. Some neighbors panicked. One even called the EPA. I decided enough was enough. I contacted Fire Captain Ramirez. He'd signed the original install years ago. We arranged a visit. When he stepped out of his SUV in uniform, clipboard in hand, Lydia's face actually lost color. She tried to block him at the sidewalk, waving her stack of made-up complaints like she was serving warrants. He didn't even stop. Just said, "Ma'am, this tank is registered under County Ordinance 491C. It's staying." I wish that was the end of it. But no. 3 days later, another fire alert went out. High winds, dry brush, downed lines sparked a flare-up on the ridge. While I was checking the pressure valve, I saw Lydia pacing with her phone, grinning, laughing, saying things like, "The truck should be there any minute." I didn't like the sound of it. 20 minutes later, a tow truck pulled up to my driveway. I intercepted the driver just as he stepped toward the tank. "You touch that," I said, "and you're interfering with emergency infrastructure." He looked confused, so I showed him the placard. FEMA code, emergency use, full legal status. He nodded, backed off. Lydia, watching from across the street, screamed, "You coward! Get back here!" That night, real flames hit. Smoke bloomed. Alerts hit red. And then I saw the impossible. Lydia had padlocked the HOA gate, posted a sign. "Private road. No through traffic. HOA authorization required." You want to know what it feels like to stand between a fire truck and a locked gate? To know that lives might be on the line and someone just closed the road? I called Ramirez. "We've got limited pressure on your side," he said. "We're activating your tank." "You can't get through," I told him. "She padlocked the gate." He didn't even hesitate. "We're coming in hot." Minutes later, 2 fire engines screeched to a stop at the gate. Firefighters leapt out. Bolt cutters. Gate down in seconds. Lydia ran down the street screaming, "Stop! This is private property!" One of the firemen, sweat pouring down his face, turned and snapped, "Lady, we've got flames licking a school perimeter less than a mile away. Get out of the way." And for once, she did. They connected the hoses. Water roared. My tank did its job. And the neighbors? They stood in the street filming it all, phones out, watching the tank that Lydia tried to rip out, save them, watching her scream while the crew saved homes. After the fire, Ramirez came to me, ash on his face. "She tried to stop us from accessing life-saving water," he said. "She doesn't get to walk away from that." I handed him the video of her locking the gate. "Send it to the city council," he said. "This isn't HOA drama anymore. This is obstruction of emergency response." And it went viral. Next day, news vans, reporters, social media exploded with clips of her yelling while flames roared behind her. Timber Ridge went from HOA suburbia to national headline overnight. She tried to save face, held a press conference in her front yard wearing a blazer, HOA banner behind her, talking about water stability and community standards. Then she made her fatal move, claimed the fire department had overstepped. 15 minutes later, Captain Ramirez held his own press conference, stood in front of the scorched hill, blueprints in hand, calmly explained everything. Then he dropped the bomb. Lydia, had interfered with emergency response. City inspectors came that same afternoon. Found every gatepost, sign, and chain she'd installed illegal, unpermitted. By the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, she still tried to chair it, still pretended nothing had changed. But the crowd, oh, they came in hot. One man shouted about his asthmatic son. A woman cried, recounting how close the fire got to her fence. And me, I stood up with the original permit package. I showed them the form Lydia herself had signed 3 years ago, acknowledging the tank. She tried to blame me. That was it. Vote was unanimous. Her presidency terminated. Even her allies didn't say a word. But I knew this wasn't over. Lydia wasn't the kind to disappear. And I was right. She tried one last smear campaign, accused me of profiting from public funds. Of course, nobody bought it. The fire had burned too close. The truth was too obvious. In the end, she was fined, banned from HOA leadership, and slinked away to some cousin's house. The tank? It got a makeover, a mural, a plaque, and a new sign welded above the valve that read, "Function over fiction." And now, every time a fire truck honks as it passes, I know exactly what that sound means. Justice or just revenge.